In many ways it was no surprise that Derek Mackay chose to target the independent schools in the recent budget when he announced that he would remove their eligibility for charitable relief in relation to the payment of business rates. Despite the fact that this policy directly conflicts with the SNP's policy to widen access, the Scottish Government has been signalling for some time that it views the independent sector more as the government's enemy rather than its friend. What is a surprise, however, is the complete lack of detail about how the SNP intends to pursue the policy. In the accompanying budget briefing, there is only a vague statement of intent and the inference that the Scottish Government will continue to engage with the sector about the necessary changes, but nothing more than that. When questioned, Mr. Mackay appears to be suggesting that he will be looking at changing business rates regulations rather than at opening up the charity law which was agreed on a cross-party basis in 2005. This impression is backed up by the fact that Derek Mackay says he has not taken advice from or even consulted with the Office of the Scottish Charity Regulator OSCR. So, has taken other advice? For example, has he considered the anomaly which will arise in the provision of nursery places? He is going to end up giving a tax break to profit-making, privately run nurseries, yet nurseries in independent schools, which are charities, and which, incidentally, assist the Scottish Government and local authorities to meet their 3- and 4-year-old provision targets, will be ineligible for the same tax break. There is no logic to this at all and it smacks of discrimination. Likewise, he says he will be exempting independent special schools and music schools from the new policy, but has he considered the scenario whereby pupils with very special support needs in mainstream independent schools, and there are plenty of them despite what the Scottish Government might think, are treated differently? Apart from these issues, of course, there's the general point that this policy change is both economic and social madness. It will cost the taxpayer far more than it will bring in, and, from a social perspective, it will serve only to make independent schools more elitist and less accessible to the young people whom the Scottish Government claims it wants to support most. Indeed, since the budget, it is the parents of these bursary pupils who have been the most incensed by the Scottish Government's actions, and rightly so. When a government announces a new policy, the public has a right to think that the details and the relevant costings have been properly worked through. This is certainly not the case when it comes to the proposal to end the relief on business rates for independent schools. Liz Smith, Conservative MSP, Mid Scotland and Fife, the Scottish Parliament, Holyrood, Edinburgh. I have followed the correspondence about private versus state education with interest. Surely, if private school standards of discipline, the pursuit of excellence without fear, the outstanding examination results they achieve were available in the state sector, most people would eschew the struggle to pay extra fees. They, of course, already pay for state education through taxation. In modern parlance, it is a no-brainer. T. Stewart, 9 Pier Road, Berwick-upon-Tweed. William Durwood's claim letters, December 22, that he paid his direct and indirect taxes. The wider community ignores the fact that so does everyone else, according to their means. That he paid twice for his children to be educated was of course a decision for him to take. The reasons for this decision are known to Mr. Durwood and his family alone, but at a cost that many could not contemplate. They must have perceived their own advantages by doing so. It is hard to believe it was a matter of whimsy. Lastly, despite Mr. Durwood's best attempts to misrepresent my letter, I would not and did not claim that anyone paying school fees has stolen from the wider community. But the fact remains that the full costs of fee-paying schools are not reflected in the costs that they bear. Alistair Galloway, 14 Silverton Avenue, Dumbarton. Alan Crosby's excellent letter December 22 is likely to be ignored and forgotten like so many before. Teachers are the key to children overcoming poverty and lack of attainment, as well as making the most of the others and the best. The best teachers are idealists put the task of educating before everything else in their lives. They live to impart knowledge and skill and to inspire, and will go to great lengths because of it. Because of that they become exhausted, perform less well. It is a grind of preparation and marking. It cannot be done well without continual self-education, which fuels the passion and inspiration that proclaims the message this subject is worthwhile. Knowledge is exciting, of most worth, even. Children see this and are transformed by it. The rewards of teachers are derisory. That is why there are shortages. The job of being forever in the company of children even though they love it, its challenges and successes, is so downright undignified and lacking status that well-qualified folk would not stoop to it. Yet teachers determine what the country will become. Courses, exams and even textbooks are nothing without the teacher who inspires the whole class, or utters the kind word that changes the path of the disadvantaged pupil who suddenly sees that he is of interest and importance, when before he was treated as if on a scrap heap before he even began. The advantages of a child from a home full of books and family experiences of an intellectual and artistic kind are immense. The one from a home without books and no such experience can only be transformed by the school. The parents cannot help because they do not belong to the world that understands such things. What politicians have never realized is the importance of this dialogue between teacher and taught. Everything must be done to make it work. To enhance it, paying teachers properly and giving them time to prepare and continue to learn is crucial. Many teachers will be too hamstrung by poverty themselves to perform as well as they should. They will have to travel for hours to school, have difficulty paying the mortgage, be unable to afford to educate themselves as they wish, and have no time to do so because they lack the support systems to achieve excellence as teachers. What will enable this teacher to perform at his best? That is the question every administrator needs to deal with continually. He cannot if he is exhausted, stale and burned out. A reason for the victory in the skies over Britain against initially superior forces, often overlooked, is that our pilots were carefully nurtured and rested. The enemy fought theirs to extinction. Of course, without respite, their performance fell. William Scott, 23 Argyle Place, Rothesay. John Sweeney has admitted that teacher retention is a problem. He and the eyes say pay rises are the answer. No doubt some teachers quit for more pay, but time after time bureaucracy, bullying, pupil behavior and parent abuse are cited as the main reasons for resignations. Councillors and MSPs need to call a spade and wrench Mr. Sweeney, their own parties, eyes and councils who have let this situation fester for many years out of their complacent denial state, until policies are in place to empower and train teachers to deal with the kind of parents and pupils that bedevil the system and spoil it for everyone. Even doubling wages won't stop the hemorrhaging of irreplaceable staff. Alan Sutherland, 1 Willow Row, Stonehaven.